I just used Veo3.1 to automate UGC ads, product videography, commercial-grade VFX, faceless media, motion graphics, and 21 total use cases for creatives. And it's all powered by this one single n8n workflow. Because if you missed it, Google just launched Veo3.1. And when we plug this model in n8n to automate everything, not only do you unlock the full power of Google's most advanced video model yet, but you also get access to its cheapest implementation possible, bypassing pricey web apps and going straight to the source. So in this video, I'll show you exactly how to automate Google's new model, teach 21 creative use cases you can use to build for clients or earn with faceless media, and also provide expert tips along the way to take you from beginner to pro on creating with AI. And remember, what you're seeing today is the worst this AI video technology will ever be, as the development in this space is showing no signs of slowing down really. So if you're serious about understanding how AI is reshaping creative work, then now is the time to learn how to build with it. Let's get started. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Jay. I spent a decade in creative and marketing work and half a decade leading data teams, and now founded my AI agency and also RoboNuggets, our education arm, where we have several hundred members, all AI practitioners across the globe. And here our mission is to make creating with AI easy to learn regardless what your background is. With a wealth of AI lessons that most people join for, but most members stay because of the community that we have built. So as mentioned earlier, Veo3.1 was officially launched last week, and it came with a bunch of features that make it much easier to create high quality videos with precision. And although it doesn't answer all of the challenges on AI creation as of yet, I think the pace by which we've seen these models develop and get launched over the past weeks, with Sora 2 being launched and now Veo3.1 coming right after, showed that we're actually getting there quite fast. So to show these new features of this model, what we did is hook up Veo3.1 into this n8n automation, which we'll go through in a bit, which if you're new, n8n is a no-code automation tool that is similar to Make.com or Zapier, but it's gotten quite popular recently because of the ease by which it integrates these AI models. And the great thing about n8n is if you need a shortcut, and if you're part of the community, you can access this template, which if you click on this import from file feature, n8n will build that workflow for you automatically coming from that template. And also you can see that we got our automation connected to a Google Sheet, which if we go there, you'll find that we have our 21 use cases loaded here. And I'll explain how this template works in a bit. But if I just hit execute workflow to simulate how this automation will work, when that has finished processing, we now have our 21 use cases ready for review. So I'll be going through this build in just a bit so that you can set it up yourself as well. But if you're just to go ahead into our first use case, I think what Veo3.1 unlocks for us with its new features of start and end frames is this trying on UGC or user-generated content, where the AI actor is trying on the product that you wanted to use. Because with Veo3.1, you can now define, for example, this image as your starting frame and then this image as your end frame. And then for this use case, we just gave it a simple prompt where we say the woman wears the hat and says this script. This is the video that we got.
Okay guys, this is the coolest hat ever. I got it at TikTok shop. And it's 50 off this Black Friday.
So that's really good. Now in practice, if in case you also want to use AI to get these photos, what you can do is use image models like Nano Banana or Seedream in order to keep consistency of your character across frames, which we've also talked about in previous lessons. Now before we go to the other use cases, I'll just quickly explain a bit what this template is and how it's being used by this n8n automation. Because with these automations, what I always advise our team to do is to have a section where you arrange all of the inputs that the AI model needs, a section where the AI model does all the work, which is this configuration section in the middle, and then a region where you will place your output, which in this case will be the videos that we are generating. So for the input, we use Google Sheets because that's the most accessible for most people, but you can also use Airtable if you're more advanced. But if we open this node, all this really did is load our 21 use cases into the n8n automation. And within these 21 items would be the inputs that we arrange here, which contains our video prompt, our image references, for which for Veo3.1 you can pass up to 3 images. And if we open these image URLs, that basically points to our image, which if your image is already hosted online, the way by which you get those URLs is just by doing a right click and copying the image address and then pasting it here. Or if you need a place to upload them, I usually recommend to our team to use Cloudinary because they have a free plan that lets you upload images, and they also provide you a URL which you can copy into your automation inputs. We also define here the aspect ratio, which is either 9:16 vertical or 16:9 horizontal. And then this column for the tool is due for Veo3.1 because now it allows us to use this feature feature for first and last frame, which we just illustrated. We can also use reference or ingredients to video, which is basically passing on multiple images to use in a scene, which you'll see in a bit, or the normal text to video, where you don't pass any images at all. This template also allows you to use Veo3 Fast or Veo3. In a nutshell, Veo3 Fast is what I recommend because that is much cheaper versus Veo3, and the quality of it is not that different when you're already working in production. And all those costs I'll summarize in the end so that you can decide on your own. We also have a task status here where the automation just grabs all of the rows that have been set to create. And once the automation has finished, it just marks them as done and provides our final video here. So basically all of those columns is what we loaded into n8n, which we pass into this node, which is the one linked to Veo3.1. So if we open this, you'll find n8n's common design of working here, where here on the left is all of the input items that we neatly arranged for this node. So in n8n, for every node that you're configuring, all of your inputs will be here. And then here in the middle will be the setup items specific to this node that you are configuring. And here on the right is the output of this node, which it then passes to future nodes. So that's basically how n8n works. And this node in particular is called an HTTP request. And we use it a lot because it's the primary way by which we call on third-party tools within n8n, including Veo3.1. And what we're doing here is we're posting a request to Veo through this service, which you can see is called Key.ai. And if you're completely new, Key.ai, we recommend it a lot in our team because they aggregate a lot of the AI models and also get updated with new releases. So it's sort of like an app store for AI models, allowing us to use these state-of-the-art models much easier. And here you can see we have Veo3 in here, which if you click that, you can actually use Veo3.1 here directly, including all the features that we are going to talk about. And what's great about tools like Key AI is that apart from allowing you to automate it, it also allows you to use these tools at a much lower cost. So if you're used to using Google Flow, for example, which is undoubtedly great for beginners because they have some free trials and free credits, especially if you're a student. But if you're starting to productionize your work, then API services like AI will allow you to load, let's say, only $5, and that will already give you something like 16 Veo3 generations. And the costs for these platforms are probably going to go down as months go by. And the reason why is because these API services let you tap into the models directly. So it's also common that they provide you more control in the videos that you're generating. But in any case, for you to use this in automations like n8n, you need to go to this API tab and read through their documentation here, which we've already done. And so this URL is where we send our request to. And if we scroll down, here in this section is where we declare the content of our request. So if we just expand this, in n8n, whenever you see this green text, that just means these are dynamic values. And you can just paste this into ChatGPT if you want to understand what all this JavaScript means. But essentially, when you type out something like this, it just points to the video prompt in your Google Sheet, and how it translates when it's passed to Key AI is contained in this result area, where you have the prompt that we reviewed earlier, you have the model that we declared in that Google Sheet, the aspect ratio, the generation type, which is the tool that we use, the first and last frame. And then since we pass an image URL, we also automatically added this area that contains your image URLs in here. And so if we just scrub through this, you can see that we are passing those 21 use cases that we are about to go through together. And the reason why this script looks complex is because we are actually making it flexible to be used for any type of generation that you want. So if you want text to video, first and last frame, or even ingredients to video, then this expression accounts for all of them. So when this node ran, basically it submitted our 21 requests to Key AI. They then activated their Veo3.1 model. And so we just have a wait node here for 20 seconds to wait a bit for those videos to generate. And then this node, if we open that, that just checks if our video is already available in this URL. And when the video is still generating, we just have this switch node in order to map back to the wait node to wait a bit more. Or if it's already available, then we map to the success field and store the video back to our Google Sheets. If in case it resulted to an error, then we just map it to this branch where it now logs the error to your Google Sheet as well. So if we open this, this has been known to happen, especially since for video, there is a lot of copyright that is involved. But the good news is whenever rejections like this happen, you actually don't get charged in your Key AI account. So that is how the automation works in full, which allowed us to pretty much create and automate all of these use cases in one click. So now if you go to the rest of our use cases, what you can actually do is also do user-generated content for promoting locations. And for this use case, what we attempted is to send Veo3.1 this prompt, which you can read through. But basically what we're trying to do is to have this character promote this real estate listing.
Hey everyone, welcome to 13 Darling Point in Sydney. a rare opportunity now on the market.
So what's great about this example is it shows how easy it is becoming to create videos like this. Because previously, in order to achieve something like that, if you look at our previous lessons, what we needed to do was create an image first that blends these two photos together. And then when you have that image, use that as the starting frame of the video when you call on models like Veo3. But now with Veo 3.1, you can skip that step and go straight into creating videos like these. And the reason why we can do that is because now Veo 3.1 has an ingredients to video or reference to video feature, as some websites call it, which we used for this instance. But quality does vary depending on what you're trying to achieve. So I'd say if you still want best quality results, what you can do, as we'll illustrate in this third use case, is to first generate your image using Seedream or Nano Banana and use that as a starting frame with Veo 3.1.
Just got this new bag. Ang ganda, diba? Perfect for brunch or kahit school pickup. I super love the colors.
So as you noticed, we also tested there how Veo can handle different languages, at least for Tagalog, which I can speak so I can understand if it's good or not. The articulation is actually pretty good. So I'm curious to hear from everyone if when you're using it in your language, is it effective or not? And if you're interested on how to use models like Nano Banana to create images like that as your input for Veo, then you can just check out this previous lesson. Now the fourth use case we'll illustrate is food videography. And here is where I think Veo 3.1 really excels in. So if you're creating videos for clients that need content for food or for their restaurant, I think you should definitely check out Veo 3.1 because I think it's one of the best models right now that gets this part right. And the great thing is, if you look at our prompt here, it's very simple. It's this one sentence simple prompt, and we already get results of that quality in just one shot. And food isn't the only one where Veo 3.1 excels in. So for this use case, we're going to do a product showcase video using this perfume and calling on the ingredients to video tool of Veo 3.1. So that is already commercial quality, honestly. If you use a tool like Topaz Labs in order to upscale that, you can definitely include that as part of your production work. And for this use case specifically, I used a more complex structured prompt. So if you see here, this is structured so that you have the brand colors, the style, the environment, the lighting, and so on in there, which if you're operating on prompts of this length, which is useful if you're working for production, I actually didn't type this myself. I just asked ChatGPT to type this for me, in which the original prompt I got from Aziz for AI on Twitter, whom I really recommend when it comes to branded content because he shares some fantastic prompts that we also get inspiration from. And what's great is when it comes to product showcase or product videos, you can also apply it for any style that you want. So for this example, what we're going to do is create a 360 shot of this shoe that we can potentially use for our Shopify product page. And for this one, we use the first and last frames because this picture that we are starting with is already looking good. And this is just useful if, for example, your client already has a stock of great looking images that they just want to animate. You can also use Veo 3.1 for studio shots, even ones where you have people in your shot. So for example, if you want a product video for this hoodie, I think your best bet right now in order to create a good video for it from AI would be Veo 3.1. Because if you try to use a model like Sora 2 to animate this, it will most likely get rejected because OpenAI is very strict when it comes to submitting images of photorealistic people. So when we once again use ingredients to video for this with a driving prompt, which is quite simple, this one, this is what we get. And just to illustrate for this next use case, even if you have a photo that is quite low res, so you can see this is something like 300 pixels in width, Veo 3.1 also does a pretty good job. And before we leave the use cases involving photorealistic people, what you can also use Veo 3.1 for is for editorial shots. So for example, if you're doing a video or a profile on a specific person, you can feed images like this as an ingredient to Veo 3.1. And when you provide a detailed prompt like this one, this is the video that you could get. Or if you're working on commercial advertisements, you can also experiment with Veo 3.1 to see if it works for you. So for this example, we're just providing this image and we just tested a simple prompt here saying animate this image as a commercial. And this is the video that we got.
Introducing the new Macro Mike Fruit Loops Protein. It's the smoothest and creamiest protein in the universe.
Now, a couple of notes there. The reason why that looks low resolution is mainly because we are using the first frame feature of Veo 3.1, and this image that we passed because we just got it online, you can see that it's quite low resolution. So if you want to raise the quality of your output, what I'd probably do is upscale this image first before passing it to Veo 3.1. And a very quick tip, the one we use most of the time is Topaz Labs via Fall AI. So they have an upscaler for images as well as videos. The other thing that I'd probably advise someone to do in this case is because we are hoping to get a 9:16 video as an output. It's always best practice to put in your starting image to be the same aspect ratio as the output that you want. And so the reason why Veo cropped your image in this case is because you pass in a square image to get a vertical video. Now, if in case you don't have a starting image that is already high quality, what you can actually do now is to just pass in your images as ingredients to create a video. So in this use case, we just asked Veo 3.1 to adhere to this prompt, and we fed these two images as ingredients for it in order to generate a video like this.
Packed with protein and bursting with flavor, this is your smoothest scoop yet.
So this is a great example because if you just really scrutinize what happened here, it was able to preserve the text as well as the elements of our image perfectly. And it was also able to understand that we want something like this as its background, which it was able to incorporate in the beginning. So if you have a vision in mind of what you want to execute, I think the ingredients to video feature is a huge game changer for you. All right, so now moving away a bit from the advertising and commercial use cases, you of course can use Veo 3.1 with viral videos. So if you remember just a few months ago, Veo 3 became really viral because of all the Bigfoot vlogs. And so the question now is it still the best model in order to create these viral videos? Well, when we do a text-to-video generation for this prompt of a cute hamster riding a tiny motorcycle, this is what we get. So that is pretty good and leaps beyond what we can achieve from just months ago. But honestly, if you were to ask me, I think if your niche is viral animal videos, I'd probably recommend checking out Sora 2 first to see if that's fit for your use case. And this is just one example from our community, Sasha, who's just been crushing it in the pet and animal niche. But if you just check one of his examples, you'll find that the realism for Sora 2 is really unmatched even by Veo 3.1. So as long as you label all of these videos when you upload them into YouTube and TikTok as AI generated, then that will benefit you long term and you can build a brand around this niche. And another good example of why Sora 2 can be better for faceless media is this use case where we're trying to create ASMR videos with AI. So for this video generation, we just gave a pretty simple prompt, which you can read here, and this is the result that we got.
Pika, pika.
And it still, again, leaps better than what we can do just a few months ago. But if you compare it with what Sora can do, there's just no question that this looks much better. So I think when it comes to text to video, it's highly likely that Sora 2 will perform better, especially on this faceless niche. And finally, before we leave the world of faceless media, another niche that has been going viral lately are all these CCTV video footage. So if you use Veo 3.1's text to video capability, we get a result like this. So if you're curious about the prompt that we used, it's pretty long. It's once again a structured prompt, which kudos to I am Emily2050 over at X, who provided that prompt to the public. And by the way, if you need a bit more proof that Sora 2 is better when it comes to text to video, I can recommend this video where they compared Veo 3.1 versus Sora 2 using the same prompts. And across several or even all of them, I think Sora 2 just wins. All right, now this next use case is directly inspired by this channel that's been crushing it recently. And here you can see they have a video that's already garnered 1.2 million views in just 3 days. And what they are doing is creating AI vlogs of K-pop demon hunters, which is very popular recently. And the quality of this is just through the roof. So they probably use a combination of AI models and manual editing tools in order to achieve something like this. But you can see that they are declaring that this is created using AI tools, which I think is the right way to go. And if you just browse through the comments that they have, it's clear that people are enjoying their content, which is great. So now what I wanted to test out is to use Veo 3.1's ingredients to video feature to see if we can generate a scene for an animation similar to that. So we pass this image of the characters, the location where we want them to be in, and just to test, we also pass in this image of the moon to see if Veo will be able to integrate that seamlessly into the scene.
We're in Paris!
So I think that has potential. Now, to be fair, the prompt that we use is pretty simple. We literally just said that the characters are in Paris. They say we are in Paris. But I definitely think with more prompt fine-tuning, as well as passing in better images of the characters, then I think Veo3.1 has potential for you to create videos and animations like the ones we saw in that channel. Now, talking about animation and characters, you can also use Veo3.1 to create a character reference profile. So for this one, we just pass in this image and we give it a simple prompt where the character stands in a well-lit studio and rotates 360 degrees. And so now the reason why this technique is so powerful is if in case you need, let's say, a side profile of your character to be featured in a scene, we just take a screenshot of this part of your video and use that as a driving reference for video models like Veo3.1. And by the way, that technique I first heard from Rourke in his video here. So I definitely recommend this video as well if you want to continue mastering Veo3. Now for this last batch of use cases, we'll be using Veo3.1 for motion graphics. So for example, you can use Veo for logo animations. So if you feed it just this image, which is our logo that we want to animate, and we provide a very simple prompt, literally just saying animate this logo, this is what we get. So obviously you can fine tune that, but that is quite good results considering that you just gave it like a 3-word prompt in order to achieve that. The other use case that you can use Veo for is lower thirds. And if you don't know what that is, that's basically sort of like a name tag that appears on the lower third of the screen whenever someone is introduced in like an explainer video. And what you can do is use Veo's first and last frame feature to animate this image, which is just a green screen, into this image, which contains your lower thirds graphic. And this one you can make in Canva or Photoshop. And I also showed how to use Seedream to create images like this as well in this previous lesson. Now for our next use case, we're going to use Veo3 to animate this graphic that we have. So if, for example, you have a fixed visual or image that you have in your website and want it to be a bit more dynamic, what you can potentially do is feed that as a starting frame for Veo3.1 to create an animation like this. Now, obviously, one of the challenges when it comes to AI is that after you provide Veo with a starting frame, there's limitations on how much you can control what comes after, which is why for this next use case, we're using Veo3.1's first and last frame feature. And what we can simply do is have your graphic be the last frame and use a clean solid background as the first frame. And when we give it a simple prompt like this is what we get. And finally, our last use case is doing 3D motion graphics with Veo, which again, you can achieve if, for example, you want to connect this frame into this second frame into a video you're creating for this application. We can provide it a simple prompt like this, and this is what we get. So there you go, 21 use cases for creative media that you can use Veo3.1 for, all powered by this n8n automation. And if you need a view of the costs, I summarize it here in this slide. Generally, as a rule of thumb, if you're dealing with commercial use cases, I mostly suggest Veo3.1 Fast, because it's quite affordable at only 4 cents per second of video generated. You could try out Veo3.1 quality as well, but I just think the incremental quality uplift that it provides versus Fast is not really commensurate to the cost that it is charging for. That said, I also highlighted Sora 2 in green because I think if you are dealing with faceless media and your niche doesn't deal with any copyrighted characters, I think Sora 2 is the way to go, especially because right now it's much more cost efficient versus Veo3.1. And these are all rates via Key AI, by the way, which I believe is the cheapest that you can get these models at the moment. But if in case you find other providers that offer these models at lower costs than these, then let me know because I'm curious to see and test them as well. But the good thing is once you set up this automation and learn n8n, you can pretty much edit this for any provider that you need. And again, if you need a shortcut to get this template, you can just find it in our community, just in the link below. We have dozens more lessons here all around creating with AI and automation. And our students and members here is really why this community is so good. And we also regularly post paid opportunities here if in case that's something that you're interested in. So if that's what you're looking for to continue staying ahead in everything AI, then feel free to check that out to see if that's for you. And also consider subscribing to this platform if in case you haven't yet, because that helps us a lot to keep providing more educational content here like this. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.